Hi guys, this is Harry from GuruMe. Last time we talked about how to write Oxbridge standard personal statement, and today I'm back again to talk about Oxbridge interviews. Three things we'll cover today in this video. Firstly, what kind of format does the interviews take? What's like the general atmosphere in the interview? Secondly, what kind of questions come up? Probably you guys would be most curious about this. And finally, how to prepare for the interviews. So I'll start to talk about the format of the interviews. So Oxford and Cambridge each has more than 20 colleges, almost 30, or if you count up the graduate schools, graduate colleges, more than 30. And each college has their own interviewers who will have their own interview questions, who would have prepared their own interview questions, and therefore they may be slightly different. You might get a very friendly interviewer who give you a lot of hints, who give you very friendly smiles to help you get relaxed, as opposed to a very, very mean-looking interviewer who tries to catch you out whenever you make something, whenever you make a mistake. No. A lot of interviews will be there to, they will be there to test you, but they're also there to, find out how you approach questions you haven't seen before, how you think, whether you can discuss with the interviewers about academic topics. So depending on which college you are being interviewed at, you might be facing 1, 2, or 3 interviews. For me, I had 1 interviewer for my first interview and 3 for my third one. And who are these interviewers? Most of you would already know that they will be your tutors for the next 3 or 4 years. And these interviews are college-specific, your college-specific tutors. Interviews are typically 25 minutes long, 25 minutes or 30 minutes, and you will have 2 of these. But depending on circumstances, you might have a third one. When you have a third one, this means that your interviewer isn't very sure in giving you acceptance to the university or not, and therefore would like to have another assessment to confirm this. So on average, you should be expecting 2 interviews, that is 30 minutes long each. So what kind of questions are asked at interviews? Firstly, I can say that general questions like why do you want to study at Oxford, why do you want to study chemistry, are often not asked. Okay, there might be some exceptions, but I can say in most cases there will not be such questions, and we go straight into the academic questions. However, the first question often tends to be some doable ones, easy, doable ones, like A-level standard, even AS standard, IB standard. The examples I'll be giving will have to be biochemistry based because I studied biochemistry. But if I give you an example, my first interview's first question was to draw a peptide. Draw an amino acid. That was the first question. Draw an amino acid. That's quite a simple one. That's biology AS level, and there was a whiteboard next to where I was sitting, and I was just asked to stand up and then draw it out. So we started with this easy question and then started building up some difficulty. to what I feel was for university first year level. And just to give you an idea, after draw an amino acid question, the next question was draw a peptide bond by drawing another amino acid and joining them up. And then the trick question was the one after, and it asked me, what is the most electronegative atom? Now, thinking now, it's not as tricky as it was during the interview, but in that time, because I was under pressure, I was very nervous, this question really tricked me. Obviously it's oxygen, but I was trying to find, oh, is it nitrogen or is it oxygen? But yeah, I chose oxygen correctly. And towards the end, towards the more difficult end questions, I'll just give you an example. The question I got was, if codon had 4 bases instead of 3, how would this affect, how would this change the structure of tRNA? Definitely something you don't study in A-levels, and something that most biochemistry applicants will not have immediate answers to. So I think there are 2 areas that you're being assessed through these kind of difficult questions that you've never seen before. First is whether you can get the hints from the interviewers to arrive at the correct answer, to find your way to the answer. And secondly, how passionate you are about the subject. So, about the first point, they are trying to see if you're the type of person who thinks logically and then who can express the logical thinking process to another person and discuss the problem, share some ideas together and then arrive at the correct answer. This is very important, I think, because that's exactly what tutorials are like. Tutorials are not for just being taught by your tutors on the subject, but sort of a discussion. You're learning through discussion with your tutors. So that's quite important, let's say. Not a skill, but a quality. I'll give you a very good example of this. In my first interview, one of the easy questions I received was, explain transcription and translation. Okay, how easy is this? This is like AS standard thing, you learned about transcription and translation, and all you have to is explain that. However, how long will the answer be? You're given a question on 2 very big, massive topics. Obviously, you could go on for ages on this, but you don't want to do that in a 30-minute interview. So you have to select the kind of information you want to give the tutor, and you need to start with the basics, and then talk about it for a while, 1 minute maybe, and you don't want to start with it. You don't want to show off that I know that I know really cool things about transcription, translation that A-level books don't talk about. It's about you being able to logically explain from the basics to the details. The second part, your passion for the subject, is something that you will naturally, subconsciously express through your answers, through your reactions during the interview. I'll give you an example. In my second interview, there was this really hard question. It was the hardest question out of the 2 interviews, and it was driving me crazy. I obviously received hints from the interviewers. However, I still couldn't solve it. I was like, I was really thinking about it for like 2 minutes, and it clicked suddenly. And during that eureka moment, I literally half jumped from the chair. My voice, volume and tone increased, and yeah, this must have been, obviously noticed by the interviewers as a sign of my passion for biochemistry, which was an appealing point. So a tip I would like to give you all is not to exaggerate, not to over-exaggerate, but exaggerate a little bit of excitement when you receive some hints, the hints that really make you click and arrive at the correct answer. Okay, so finally, how to prepare for our interviews. I'm going to be talking about 2 techniques that I personally used, and both are practicing discussion skills. Both are used to make you better at expressing better at organizing your thinking processes, and then expressing these. First technique is the one that my biology teacher taught me. This is, let's say you've got 20 topics. You've got 20 topics about biology, like stem cells, transcription, cloning. You pick a topic randomly, stem cell, and then you have to talk about stem cell for 1 minute without stopping. More like narration, you have to narrate for 1 minute. Now, this is a lot harder than you think. If you actually try and do it, now I first thought, okay, this looks a bit easy. Transcription is an easy topic. 1 minute should be a problem. It actually is quite difficult, because it's very easy to stop and think and then start narrating. So what this gets you to practice, what this makes you better at, is at firstly organizing and prioritizing which parts are important for this topic. Which bit should come at the top, and which bit should go at the end. I'll go back to the example I mentioned earlier in the video of explain transcription and translation. I'll give you a demo, 1 minute, a demo narration. Explain transcription and translation. Okay, transcription and translation are processes required for converting genetic information into protein production. Transcription is the one for converting DNA sequence, a sequence of DNA, into mRNA sequence, and translation for converting these transcribed mRNA sequence into amino acid sequence. These 2 processes happen when the cell needs to make proteins. For example, when a B lymphocyte is under attack by a pathogen, the B lymphocyte needs to make antibodies. So antibody genes are transcribed and then later translated. Transcription happens inside the nucleus, because that's where the genes are, by RNA polymerase. And then the mRNAs travel out to the nucleus, where there are the ribosomes, and they are translated in the cytoplasm. Would you like me to go further? Hope you noticed 2 things in this sample 1 minute narration. Firstly, I didn't go straight into answering it. I had at least 3 seconds to think about how I'm going to answer this. During that time, I was thinking about what it is, when it happens, where it happens, and what makes it happen. These 4 steps. Second thing you should notice is how quickly that 1 minute went. When I just talked about basically the basics of transcription and translation. So yeah, hope you can also practice like this for different topics. Second practice method would be to read around the subjects, preferably beyond A-level standard. Find some books that go beyond A-levels. This will hopefully not only increase your interest in the subject, but also increase the overall quality of your personal statement, if you mention it. For example, personally, the summer before UCAS application submission, I read the 2 books I mentioned in my personal statement, and I said that I was interested in stem cell research. For my second interview, the first question I was asked was to talk about stem cell research. So yeah, read articles and journals around your subject. They will definitely help. I'm going to speak a little bit about when we should start preparing for these interviews. Interview invitations typically start coming out 2 weeks before the scheduled interviews. This means after the UCAS submission on 15th of October, you have at least 1 month till receiving interview invitations. I actually started preparing for interviews straight after UCAS submission. But a lot of you may think it can be a waste of time to prepare for interviews beforehand, and it turns out you're not invited to the interviews. But it would also be a shame if you only have 2 weeks to prepare for interviews. Think about that. So my recommendation would be to start straight after UCAS submission. It doesn't have to be several hours every day. Perhaps a few hours a week would be good to start with. And finally, how important are these interviews? Interviews are by far the most important stage, just because most applicants meet the minimum grade requirements, typically A-star, AA in A-levels or 39, 40 in IB. Therefore, interviews where the universities make the real assessment for academic potential of applicants who pretty much all have top grades. So let me let the figures speak. Every year, there's about 630 applicants to Oxford to read chemistry, and 90% of these applicants are invited to the interviews. It's quite a lot. But only 28% pass through the interview stage. This is the importance of the interviews. Of course, the difference is less if there are admissions tests involved, because admission test results are taken into account before giving out interview invitations. Like for Oxford Engineering, which requires physics aptitude tests, only 60%-ish are invited to the interviews, and only 22% make it through. Cambridge invites most of its applicants just because they want to interview, face-to-face interview the applicants. Hope my video today was helpful for all the applicants and also the parents. Please feel free to ask any question by commenting on your YouTube and Yoku below. On our website, on our GuruMe website, there are current university students at Oxford and Cambridge by subject who want to share their application experiences, who wants to offer mock interviews, as well as our proud resources such as mock interview videos. So make sure you check these out, and yeah, thanks for watching.